So many people feel that if they can just find the right technique or the right method or the right book, maybe the right information, everything will click and the anxiety will disappear. This tends to lead to a lot of research and what I affectionately call getting a self help PhD through the University of Google often. But what really happens with this is simply information overload and no real results. So I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about why this happens and how to circumvent it. If we don't know each other yet, my name is Sukie Baxter, and I help you to rewire yourself for greater health, happiness, and success. If you're ready to break free from the cycle of anxiety and create a life that aligns with your true core self, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. So, one of the things that happens when you research something deeply on your own is that you gain a lot of information, but there's usually not a lot of implementation, or what implementation there is not consistent. And this is particularly true in the case of anxiety. And here's why. So, as you begin to do something, anything, just any technique that makes a tangible, measurable impact on your anxiety, that anxiety begins to diminish. Well, anxiety is your body, your nervous system's survival strategy. That anxiety isn't there by happenstance. That anxiety arose due to a pattern that was set up, usually one that you weren't aware of, usually very early in your life, possibly even inherited. That anxiety came to be in order to keep you safe. It took root in you because you needed that level of energy to act in order to behave in a way in your life that preserved your well-being. Usually that in modern culture is not related to something that threatens your physical safety like it would when you're living outside and there's actual predators that are trying to attack you. But a lot of times this anxiety takes root because we want to be connected to our family, our community, and just our greater social group. And so as that anxiety begins to diminish, your nervous system might have a little bit of a freak out because it can feel very vulnerable to not experience anxiety when you've experienced anxiety for so very long. In fact, I myself have experienced this. I've heard from lots of my clients, I'm anxious because I'm not anxious anymore. It sounds completely weird, but it's so true because you've lost this protective thing that you had that's been a constant companion. And as those defenses go down, you can feel very vulnerable and exposed. So, this drives the research junkie pattern because you may start with something, a technique or a piece of information, experience a little bit of a shift, and then this is usually not a conscious decision, but that shift feels uncomfortable. And so you will respond from a very non conscious place by looking for the next thing, shiny object syndrome, essentially. You will think, well, maybe I need to gather more information. And off you go again. And you may gather really good information, but if you don't stick with something or really anything long enough to see results, then nothing's going to work. This can actually reinforce your anxiety because you can start to feel like, well, nothing works. This anxiety must be really bad. Nothing can budge my anxiety. And so when you constantly jump from method to method, it can make you start to internalize this sense of, well, maybe I'm just broken. Maybe I'm beyond help, which is absolutely not true. There can also be this sense that you need to find the perfect solution. And this is born out of perfectionism that a lot of people with anxiety also experience. The problem with this is that no one solution is going to be without flaw or fault. And particularly if you're in a state of anxiety, it's easy to find flaw or fault with anything. So when you're constantly looking for the perfect solution, you won't be able to stick with anything long enough to actually get any kind of a result. Moreover, the more you search, the more overwhelmed you become. And the more overwhelmed you are, the more anxious you feel. It's a vicious cycle. And because you're so busy trying to find the perfect solution, you end up feeling like nothing works, which then again only deepens your anxiety. Really and truly, the best way to see results is to find an approach that resonates with you, commit to it, and stick to it. In order for this to work, you do need an approach that provides you with structure. So, really, I emphasize finding an approach that resonates with you, something that you think makes sense and that is doable and sustainable, that is absolutely clear, that gives you a what to do step by step so you don't have to do any more research. So, there's no more information overload. And the third key is that it always brings you back to yourself. So it's self referencing, right? Because so many approaches out there are very external to you. A person will tell you, I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you, do this and you will feel better. Um, and it is very important to have structure, but built into that structure needs to be an element of self referencing so that you can actually build the skill of self attunement and being able to regulate your own nervous system, because you don't want to be overly reliant on someone else's methodology. You want to be able to internalize that ability so that you can then do that for the rest of your life. So you live healthfully and happily for the rest of your life. So, again, something that resonates with you, something that is doable, sustainable, and clear so that you are not overwhelmed or confused, and something that contains an element of self referencing. This is actually what I teach to my clients. And if it's something that you're interested in learning more about, you can click the link below and I would be happy to help you take that next step.